Divine peace and blessings. Today I want to talk about what they don't talk about as it relates to readings and divination. Obviously, I am a professional expert reader, diviner. So this is not an anti-divination, anti-reading video per se. But I do think that there has been some manipulation, if you will, in terms of the protocols of divination, what divination really is, how people are able to access divination, divinatory gifts and skills, and the precautions for both the reader and the persons who seek spiritual services in terms of readings, prophecy, and divination. The first is that all forms of divination are based on a system. Whether this is a religious system or a spiritual system, there are some protocols in place as it relates to that tool. Another code word is tool. You will hear the I am a no tool reader, um, which may mean that they don't use cards or I Ching coins or shells or any physical divinatory tool. But I think there's also a play on it suggesting that there's no tie, no commitment to a system and thereby any rules. I think it's also important to note that when using any form of divinatory system, you are accessing the spirit realm, and thereby you are opening a gateway, a portal, a doorway, if you will, to spirit and spirit entities. We have maligned, rightly or wrongly, the Ouija board for that in particular. Uh, the movies, Hollywood, books have fun with the Ouija board, and we have sort of bought in wholesale to the belief, or at least the thought, that there might be something evil about the Ouija board. But there again is a attempt to separate that warning, that restriction, that caution with other forms of divination for both the client and the practitioner. Now I'm going to start with traditional African-based systems and then sort of work my way out. And this is not going to be a popular video for many reasons. One, some people are getting over on you in terms of reading and slash spiritual work. And I say that in particular because the two are not the same. The two are very loosely connected, really. Divination is utilized in ritual work to build a formula, to build a blueprint, to see what we're dealing with, to see what spirits we're dealing with, to divine what necessary product may be required to bring evo, to bring healing, to bring balance to whatever the request is. But there's also a plethora of spirit entities, spirit deities, Orisha, Loa, spirit guides, ancestors that are directly connected to the tools of divination themselves, but also to the divinatory process. So when you see a reading online in public on Keen or Cassandra or operating from their own Facebook even, and they appear to be doing dozens of readings a day. And again, I'm starting first with the African-based systems. There are too many protocols involved, too many prayers, praise names, ritual acts, if you will, to not be too specific, to not break anyone's taboo about sharing sacred knowledge. But there are too many processes involved before, after, and during to complete dozens of divinations a day, particularly in Ifa, Voodoo, any of those Santeria, Lakomi, Palo, any of those African-based even those created on this side of the Atlantic, but are steeped in African tradition. There's no way to do that. Um, I'm learning that many of you do not realize that a reading has to be closed. And that's often not done instantaneously. That's often not done on the same day. Um, Certain things are prescribed, certain ritual acts must be performed, and then we question the spirits, we question the divinatory source as to if we can close the divination. That requires time. Another area I think that is being shaded, if not deliberately manipulated, is the work associated with divination within African-based systems. It is not whereby you come in for a consultation and we, address your issue and then you move on and then we sort of sit back and wait for the next reading. Again, every time we interact with spirit, there is a requirement, there's a formula, there is a coding, if you will, that has to be looked at, interpreted, and then responded to, if you will. When spirit speaks, we listen, we digest what's being said, we interpret, and then we have to act and respond, even ourselves. And in some of these signs, they're very hot, they're very volatile, which require the reader, the practitioner themselves, doing a great deal of work. Some can be done in 20, 30 minutes, some take an hour, some take a few days. Uh, we have to look at where you are located. Some of us have to travel to salt water, some of us have to travel to fresh water, some have to travel to the woods. Many people are operating in the city online. And as a practitioner and as a client, you have to consider that. Now, I'm talking about traditional African systems now. You have to consider that when you're working with these spirits, when you're working with these formulas, when you're working with these odus, when you're working with these hot, sometimes, and volatile spirits. So that all must be considered. So it's not just, I've gone from Babalawo to Babalawo and reader to reader, and this hasn't happened and that hasn't happened. We also have to look at what is your understanding and what is your role in the process. Many are looking for a codependent relationship with their readers, and that has never existed in ancient times or in modern times. It's inappropriate. Often the reader, the diviner, even symbolically, even in your nursery rhymes and your children's tales, sits at the far end of the road, sits off in the wood, sits in a symbolic place of isolation from everyday activity. We have new protocols based on our new technology, based on our new tools, the internet, smartphones, and all these new ways of connecting with spirit practitioner. But the protocols, the rules, the universal laws don't change. And as we now move out into other world cultures, world traditions, tools, systems, tarot card, I Ching, runes, all of these forms of divination have regulations, have protocols that must be followed, have protocols that must be adhered to. Once you open a door has to be closed. Once you turn off a light, that response has to be acknowledged, particularly when you turn on a light in a dark place. So we have to look at not only our understanding of what reading and divination is, but also our attitude towards it as both practitioners and those who seek the services of. And you have to begin to look at patterns of occurrence. I've done videos before about first a client, and then a month later they want to be my student, my godchild, and then a month later they're online claiming to be a professional reader. And then a month later, you know, because I don't know why it is you all share all your business on Facebook. Um, their lives are in chaos, and now they're off seeking the next reader to assist them in getting their stuff together. Uh, that's a personal pet peeve of mine. If you are in a system, particularly the West African-based, Pan-African-based systems, there are people in place. We have godparents, we have elders, we have leaders, we have experts in particular areas of our art, of our science, of our religious and spiritual practice that are already in place for you to ask questions, for you to seek information, for you to get clear understanding. So when I see that the practitioner within a system seeking assistance outside their system, outside their community, outside their family, it always sends up a red flag. And it's popular, particularly here in the West, to, well, the Babalawos did me bad, the Ilays did me bad, you know, the Cubans did me bad. You know, we have somebody that we blame, and we don't take responsibility. And I'm often put off by it because I do too many videos about it. I've done 5.5 years of blog talk radio shows about it. My attitude and my reputation precedes me as a practitioner, as having sort of a tough shell. Um, I'm sympathetic, I'm empathetic, I'm compassionate, uh, but it's not first nature for me. I'm a logical thinking, uh, left brain person. I'm mathematical, I'm scientific, even for an artist, even for a musician, even for a performer, even for an actor. We assume those people to be always right brain, but I'm left brain. I'm not a whole lot, just a little past the middle, but I'm left brain, so I am going to apply some logic. There's logic to written material. There's logic to emails and communicating by email, and not being able to shift words around. It's very easy for misunderstandings when we're sort of having this verbal communication. You know, some of you are going to interpret this video in your own way where you are, as opposed to me sending you a detailed document about something and then you sort of trying to overlay your interpretation on it, and then say, well, I was misled. So we've got to really begin to go back. And this is not about fear. The church, the evangelical, the Islamists, even the Rastas, say it's all about fear. And this is not about fear. Fear um, actually came through in last night's Odu for my Ifa reading of the day. Um, give me just a second to pull that up again. But that came through last night, the naturalness of fear. We, again, in modern times in the West, you know, we attach all this negative stuff